Part one was literally, what is it, 45 minutes or 50 minutes of just that. It was just the Scrooge story all over again. But in this case, they can't come back and, change their actions or be a better people. That's just, this is what it is, and now you're about to die. So kind of depressing in that sense. Hey, what's going on, folks? Another episode of Just My Opinion with Ryan, also known as Ryan Reviews Everything. And I am here. I know I'm a little late, but hey, better late than never. Here talking about the season finale, part one and part two of American Horror Story, New York City. And yeah, I mean, I know I did a video recently about did it fall off, this and the third. And yeah, let's just cut right to it, man. I felt like part one was really just like the American Horror Stories version of like the ghosts of Christmas past, future, and present. But in this case, it's just the horror story version of it. We have Sam, who was played by Zachary Quinto. Sam was definitely kind of like a jerk throughout the entire season, obviously. But he gets visited by like, instead of ghosts, he gets visited by, familiar faces. His ex-boyfriend was like the first ghost he saw, who pretended to be a doctor and saw all these sick people in the hospital, of course. Man, his name escapes me. I put it in the edits. We had the hitman as well, played like, another role about just all the type of regrets and stuff. It was just like, it was just the Scrooge story, you see ghosts or people representing your past, future, and present. And, I don't want to use the word lazy because, as I mentioned, I do respect Ryan Murphy's work overall. But, it was kind of lazy. And well, damn, there it is. But even same thing with Patrick Reed, Gino's love interest. It was just the same thing. You just see familiar faces of the past, future, and present, just showing them just different times in their lives or whatever. So part one was literally, 45 minutes or 50 minutes of just that. It was just the Scrooge story all over again. But in this case, they can't come back and, change their actions or be a better people. That's just, this is what it is, and now you're about to die. So kind of depressing in that sense. Part two was a little better of the finale. They definitely, what's his name? I believe his name is Adam. Adam really gets into finding out what happened to the scientist or the doctor. And I do understand overall it was really just like a homage to how, unfortunately, AIDS really hit the homosexual community back then, in the 80s or whatnot. So granted, despite, my thoughts on it, I do respect, that type of, storytelling, especially in the sense that, all these, homosexual men, especially were passing away, and it seemed like no one really gave a care, so I do understand, and I do respect, the season for that, at least trying to, just bring that back, and as I mentioned, part two was better, but the end kind of was lackluster as well. It literally, like, the final 12 minutes of the part two was literally a depressing montage of Gino going to the bars. This is, of course, after Detective Reed or Patrick Reed passes away from AIDS. But other than that, like I said, the final 12 and a half minutes is literally Gino going to bars, having sex with, men at the bars, and going to someone else's funeral in the homosexual community. it literally was just like that cycle all over again for like 12 minutes, with the occasional what's his name, Leather Daddy, with the occasional Leather Daddy coming in and either stabbing people at bars and nobody seeing him, which I understand. I feel like he, and maybe I'm reaching, never afraid to admit when I'm wrong, but I guess Leather Daddy kind of represented AIDS, because he would always show up, maybe like either at a club to kill somebody, or he would show up at Gino's house, like shortly after he slept with somebody, stuff like that. So I guess, in terms of symbolism, at least that's my take. Apparently, Leather Daddy represented AIDS, which kind of makes sense because it was almost like no one really saw, well, for the most part, Leather Daddy was literally a silent killer. Like, he didn't speak a word throughout the entire season. And on top of that, he mainly, by the time you saw Leather Daddy, it was too late. You were dead, And even, what is it? Just to backtrack a little bit, that one episode before, when it was Sam, Gino, the Hitman, when all of them met up at Fire Island at the, little condo or whatever, like, they collectively beat up on Leather Daddy. But at the last minute, when no one was looking, Leather Daddy escapes and no one saw him. But anyway, I do feel like, Leather Daddy clearly represented AIDS. And, I want to keep this fairly short, man. You can't, bat 1,000. Not all the seasons are going to be a home run. And as I mentioned, I feel like overall, the New York City one definitely is probably on my lower end of the totem pole in terms of ranking. I go with, and one that I did forget to mention, American Horror Story Cult wasn't that good neither. But still, I mean, out of all the seasons, there's like 3.5 seasons that I really didn't rock with. So I still think that's a pretty good percentage. And I know, I'm just little old me, just giving my opinion, on a cell phone or a camera. And that's really it. Man, it was just, it was just depressing, which of course, when I say depressing, we're talking about a horror season. So I'm not expecting happy endings and, lollipops and rainbows. But it was just like a depressing, what's the word? It was just a depressing, and on top of that, like, kind of lackluster. And as I said, outside, I understand the messaging behind it. I totally respect Ryan Murphy, bringing that to attention, because, for all we know, that mindset still stands relevant today in a roundabout way, where, people within the gay community pass away, and, black or white for that matter, and people, sometimes it may not get the coverage as it should. And that's really it. Just keeping that short. And that's just my take on this season of American Horror Story New York City.